You're 6 years old when your mother leaves you at the door of a children's home in Kobe with a bag of clothes, and a note that says, "I'm sorry, I can't anymore." A woman in a white apron holds your hand. She takes you through a corridor of small shoes to a room with 5 beds and a window facing a concrete wall. She points to a bed. This one's yours. Nobody is coming back for you. And the country you were born into has already decided what you are. Burakumin, Hamlet people, descendants of those who skinned animals and buried the dead. A stain that travels through blood like ink through water, invisible to the eye, obvious to everyone who checks. And in Japan, everybody checks. Welcome to your life as a Yakuza. By 8, the orphanage is routine. Wake, clean, school, silence. You learn to eat fast because the older boys steal from slow plates. You learn to sleep light because the staff don't come when somebody cries. You learn that adults are just taller versions of people who leave. At 10, a boy 2 years older than you calls you eta, filthy, the old word for your people, the one that means you're not even human. You hit him so hard his tooth comes out in your palm. They move you to a different room. Nobody moves him. By 12, school is a daily exercise in disappearing. Teachers skip your raised hand. Girls change seats when you sit down. A guidance counselor tells you to consider factory work. You're 12. He's already decided your ceiling. By 13, you're skipping more days than you attend. By 14, you stop going entirely, and nobody comes looking. You know, researching this story hit different, because kids like this didn't fail the system. The system never showed up for them. They had no one to talk to, no one to help them see a different path, and that's something I sit a lot with when writing these scripts. Honestly, there are moments in the research where I have to step away from the screen. When I'm reading about a 6-year-old left at a door with a bag of clothes, or a man watching his best friend get erased from existence with no explanation, something in me doesn't want to move on to the next paragraph. I think about how many of these men started as kids who just needed one person to show up, one conversation that went differently. And I think about how rarely that happened. How many people are stuck in their own version of that silence right now, convinced the only options are to keep going or disappear. That's where therapy comes. It won't rewrite your past, but it can help you stop passing it forward. And BetterHelp, the sponsor of today's video, makes starting that process easier. You take a short quiz, get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can talk over the phone, video, or text. If your therapist isn't the right fit, you can switch anytime at no extra cost. Over 6 million people have gotten help through BetterHelp, and it's earned a 4.8 out of 5 on the App Store. Click the link in the description or go to betterhelp.com/lostlegacy and get 10% off your first month of therapy. You're 15 when you hear them before you see them. A thunder of engines tearing down National Route 2 at midnight. 40 Bosozoku riders in modified jumpsuits, exhaust screaming like fighter jets. They ride past your window and something in your chest catches fire. Within a month, you're one of them. Hair bleached, jumpsuit embroidered with kanji you can barely read, riding a stolen Honda CB400 with baffles ripped out. The gang doesn't care where you come from. They just ask, can you ride? And are you willing to bleed? Your best friend is Kenji, son of a Korean dock worker. Another kid the system spat out. At 16, you get arrested together for the first time. At 17, the second. This time, a man in a black suit visits you in the juvenile facility. He gives you a business card with a chrysanthemum crest and says, when you get out, come see us. Kenji gets the same card. 1/3 of all Bosozoku end up exactly where that card leads. You're released 3 months later. You go straight to the address, because the alternative is a lifetime of job applications thrown in the trash the second someone checks your address. The card's address leads you to a quiet office above a pachinko parlor. A man behind a desk looks you over, nods once, and puts you to work. 18 months of scrubbing. You wash cars, mop floors, fetch cigarettes, and stand in hallways waiting to be told what to do next. You make no money. You sleep in the back room with 4 other recruits. You are not Yakuza yet. You are an audition, but you keep your mouth shut and your hands busy. And at 19, they decide you've earned your seat. You kneel on a tatami in a room that smells of cedar and incense. 3 scrolls hang on the wall. Amaterasu, the sun goddess, Hachiman, god of war, and the reigning emperor. 12 candles, 2 sea bream fish, 1 large, 1 small, parent and child, a single porcelain sake cup. The oyabun sits across from you, 56, thin as wire, face that gives you nothing. A mediator pours sake into the cup and hands it to the boss. He drinks. They fill it again, less this time, and pass it to you. You drink. The cup is warm. The sake burns. That's it. You're his child now. He is your father. Your real family ceases to exist. You will call him Oyaji. You will call the other men Aniki, big brother. This is the Sakazuki Goto. The cup you just drank from is the most important object you will ever hold. Lose it, and you've lost everything. Kenji kneels beside you. He drinks from the same cup. Your brothers now, bound tighter than blood. They told you the name Yakuza comes from a card game. 893. Yakuza. The worst possible hand. A score of 0. Worthless. That's what society called you before you walked into this room. The difference is, now you wear the name like armor. At 20, they send you to a horishi, a tattoo master who works out of a second-floor apartment in Shin-Okubo and doesn't advertise. He sits you down and asks one question. What's your story? You don't know how to answer, so he answers for you. A koi swimming upstream on your left shoulder, because you're still climbing. Fudo Myo-o across your back. The immovable king, protector of those who've got nothing left to protect. The Tebori method. No machine, wooden handle, silk thread, metal needles pushing ink under your skin one puncture at a time. 120 strikes per minute. Every single one feels like a cigarette being put out in your ribs. Sessions last 3 hours. You come back every week for 2 years. The pain is the point. Anyone can pay for a tattoo. Not everyone can survive one. At 22, you make a mistake. You mouth off to an aniki during a meeting. Nothing violent, just disrespectful. But respect is currency here, and you just bounce to check. The wakagashira calls you into a back room. White cloth on the table. A tanto knife. A bandage. He doesn't need to explain. You wrap your left pinky at the first joint. Press down. For 1 second, your entire body turns into a single scream. The finger separates. You wrap the severed tip in the cloth. Walk it to the aniki you disrespected and present it with a bow. Yubitsume. Finger shortening. Your grip on a sword just got weaker. Your dependence on the family just got stronger. That's not a side effect, that's the design. You go back to work the next morning. Nobody mentions it. Everybody notices. By 25, you've graduated from errands to collections. Your territory is 6 blocks of Kabukicho, Shinjuku's red light district. Every week, you walk into hostess bars and pachinko parlors. Sit down, drink the tea they pour with shaking hands, and leave with an envelope. The money flows upward, always upward. You hand a cut to your aniki. He feeds the wakagashira. The wakagashira feeds the underboss. The underboss feeds the oyabun. Everyone eats before you do. You wear a suit now. Italian. You carry 2 phones. You bow to the right people at the right angle. Because in this world, about 3 degrees too shallow is an act of war. By 28, you're managing a construction front. On paper, site manager. In practice, you make sure rival firms don't bid on your territory. Sometimes that means tea. Sometimes it means smashed windows at dawn. Kenji works the gambling side. Charming, reckless. He starts dipping into the take. Small amounts. Barely noticeable. You notice. You tell him to stop. He laughs and says the old men are too rich to count. You stop laughing because you know how this story ends. Thieves don't get warnings in this family. They get subtracted. You're 29 when you meet her at a ramen shop in Ikebukuro at 2 a.m. She's a nurse. She sees the missing finger, the suit, the way you sit with your back to the wall. She knows what you are. She sits down anyway. Her name is Aiko. She makes you laugh for the first time in years. Real laughter. The kind that sneaks up on you like something you forgot you owned. She never asks about work. You never volunteer. By 30, she's pregnant. You buy a ring. Your oyabun nods his approval, because even gangsters need heirs. Your son is born in a hospital where you register under a false company name, because Yakuza names on a birth certificate follow a child like a criminal record. For a while, the 2 lives hold. The suit comes off at the door. The second phone stays in the car. Your son learns to walk, while somewhere across town, men hand you envelopes full of cash. You're 34 when the calls come in at 3 a.m. Kenji. The money he'd been skimming from the gambling take wasn't small anymore. The bosses found the gap in the books, and the gap had Kenji's fingerprints all over it. They called him in for a meeting. He never came home. No funeral, no explanation, no body. One morning, his name is on everyone's lips. By evening, nobody says it. The family doesn't announce its punishments. It just erases people, and the silence is the announcement. You sit in your apartment at dawn. He was your brother. He knelt beside you at the altar. He drank from the same cup, and the cup didn't save him. Aiko finds you still sitting there when she wakes up. She doesn't ask what happened. She can read it on your face. That night, after your son falls asleep, she sits across the kitchen table and says the word she's never said before. Leave. You don't answer, because you don't resign from the Yakuza. You return the sake cup and beg your oyabun for permission to walk away. He might grant it, he might not. Some men get a clean break. Some try to leave without asking and simply vanish. And even if you got the blessing, the anti-Boryokudan laws mark you for 5 more years. No bank account, no lease, no phone contract. A free man on paper, a ghost in practice. You tell Aiko you'll think about it. You don't think about it. You go back to work. Your son turns 5 that winter. He grabs your hand one morning and asks why it looks different. You tell him you had an accident at work. He believes you. He won't always. The raid comes on a Tuesday when officers politely knock at your door. They don't kick the door down because this is Japan. And here, they dismantle your life with paperwork. The construction front, the accounting trails, 12 years of envelopes and false invoices, every one of them documented by a police task force that's been building this case since before your son was born. You're sentenced to 7 years. The Oyabun doesn't send a lawyer. The new boss has already replaced you. The suit they let you wear to court is the last nice thing you'll own for a long time. Aiko tries. She holds it together for 11 months, but the anti-Boryokudan law freezes her accounts. The landlord terminates the lease, and her employer finds out whose wife she is, and her shifts disappear. So she's left with no choice but to leave your son at the door of a children's home. On his 7th birthday, your son is standing at the same door you stood at 30 years ago. Same bag of clothes, same silence where a parent should be. Yakuza 893. The worst hand in the deck. They deal it to you once. You spend your whole life passing it to your son. By 2024, active Yakuza membership had dropped below 20,000, the lowest number ever recorded. The average member is now over 50. Some hands aren't dealt by a card game. They're dealt by a border, a regime, a name you were born into and can never put down. If this story stayed with you, watch what happens when the system doesn't just ignore you, it owns you entirely. Watch your life as a North Korean next.